Journey of the Successful Advisor, number 22.
Welcome to thesuccessfuladvisor.com, where inspiring advisors share their real-life stories of triumph and tribulation. Let their wisdom fuel your journey. And now your host, James McCracken.
Hey Advisor Nation, James McCracken here, and thanks for joining me for another episode of Journey of the Successful Advisor. If you're looking to grow your influence, build your brand, and truly make a difference that will impact and inspire others, be sure to visit thesuccessfuladvisor.com, where you can access a range of free resources. And now, Advisor Nation, let's fuel your journey. Well, g'day there, Advisor Nation. It's James McCracken, and in the hot seat today, we've got Gavin Sakira. Gavin, welcome to the podcast, my friend. Are you ready to have some fun?
James, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for having me.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Well, Gavin's proof that there's light at the end of the tunnel. He has spent 11 years in the corporate arena, reaching senior management positions within Oracle, IBM, and he's transitioned to running his own successful businesses. He's learnt from mentors, he's learnt from entrepreneurs, and he's been in a position where he can now start empowering other people to reach and aspire to their dreams and goals as well. He's on a personal mission to help thousands of people across the world break free from the traps of the corporate environment and start their own ventures to be their own boss. So Gavin, mate, a really inspiring mission that you are on at the moment. If you could please take a moment to expand upon what's going on for you in the business and maybe just bring us in a little bit about who you are when you're not in the business environment.
Yeah, sure, James. Look, like probably a lot of people that are listening to this podcast, I was in a job 9 to 5, although to be honest, it wasn't 9 to 5. It was more like 7 till 10 or something like that. And stuck in a corporate environment where there was a lot of pressure on sales, on targets, on KPIs, and politics, and all the sort of things that come with one of those high-pressured management roles. And while I enjoyed it, I enjoyed the challenge. What I didn't like was having to play that corporate game, of politics, and I was really bad at it. I just wasn't good at it, and it got to a point where I started questioning whether I fit in that environment. There were a lot of things I wanted to do. I wanted to make a difference in the world. I wanted my work to actually be meaningful. When people would ask me what I did for a living and I told them, they looked at me with blank eyes. They didn't understand what I did because it didn't make any difference to them. And, I just went through this bit of a soul-searching period for myself. And then luckily, I suppose I can look at it as a lucky experience back in the GFC time. So going back about 6-7 years ago, there was a lot of corporate restructuring going on. And it was an opportunity for me to exit the corporate world at that time and try something different. And I took that opportunity and I, went into a few different businesses. Some worked and some didn't, but it was my way of kind of trying to find what worked for me. And now today I've kind of settled on where I am, which is helping people go through this change themselves and learning from my mistakes, and I guess mistakes that a lot of people make when they go through this journey, and wanting to empower people to make the transition successfully. So that's my mission. That's where I came from, and the journey continues.
Yeah, as well it should, my friend. I think it's a very worthwhile cause that you're on, and I'm going to take you up on something. I can't believe for a moment that there was politics going on in the corporate environment. Are you sure? Because that doesn't sound quite right to me.
Yeah, look, I'm probably just imagining it. But it's funny when you say that. As you climb this corporate ladder, and really is a ladder that you got to climb. You got to, you've got to. It's a hard thing to explain to someone who hasn't done it, but the further you get up the ladder, the more you need to know about how the game is played. And it really is one of those things where, it's who are you friends with, who are you mates with, how many favors have you done to this person, how good is your reputation within the firm or the company. It doesn't become so much a reflection of the quality of your work. See, I was someone who wanted everyone to win. So if I was in a team environment, I wanted the entire team to be successful. But it didn't quite work like that because you had different divisions, you had different departments, you had people running their own P&Ls and their own ledgers and their own budgets, and everyone was looking after themselves and they wanted their team to be successful. And there was always this conflict and clash that I kept coming across, and I couldn't quite work the matrix to my advantage or to the team's advantage. And it literally was a case of, I didn't fit in. I just couldn't make it work for myself. And so maybe the politics doesn't really exist, but I felt that it did, So,
Of course, I say that just a tiny little bit facetiously, and in fact, mate, I would go so far as to say our listeners of Visor Nation would well and truly resonate with your message, because they're people who right now are probably experiencing some attributes of that political environment and wanting to actually do something which is for the betterment of the company, not the betterment of the individual. And obviously, that's that challenge, because there's some people that play the game very well, but they're playing it for their own personal agenda as opposed to what's in the best interest of the broader environment.
Correct.
With saying that, mate, let's tell us a little bit about who you are when you're not at work. What's going on for you? What does life look like? What happens?
Yeah, mate. Look, I live with my partner. We've got 2 kids. We live in Melbourne, so it's nice and beautiful down there. Get all 4 seasons every day, so you can't complain. And we've got 2 huskies that we regularly take out for walks. And I'm into my sport. I play squash and do karate once a week. So I like to keep active. I love traveling and love meeting people. And more than anything, I guess, just love waking up knowing that there's a purpose behind what I'm doing. So now I feel like I'm actually contributing and making a difference. So life today is very different to what it used to be when I was in the corporate world. When I was a bit overweight, I dreaded going into work. I didn't particularly like having to deal with fighting an uphill battle every single day. But life is a little bit different today.
Nice to hear, my friend. Cool. So, Gavin, thanks for sharing that. A lot going on for you within work, and keeping fit and active with the dogs and karate outside of work as well. And I imagine the kids are, probably keeping you on your toes as well. I can only imagine. Now, if you wouldn't mind sharing an expert tip with us, what's one piece of knowledge or advice that you've received over your journey that's contributed to helping you get where you are today?
Yeah, good question. Look, probably the biggest thing that's been helpful for me, and it continues to be helpful for me, is to be surrounded by really good people. And always trying to surround yourself with people that are where you want to be or closer to where you want to be, so that they can guide you or they can help you and support you. And I've been fortunate to have some really good mentors that I'm working with that are successful in their own right, and they're willing to give back. And so I've made some really good connections with people that have taken me on this journey. So you can't do it by yourself. And it's it's a dark tunnel when you don't have anyone supporting you. But if you've got someone who can hold your hand and walk you through a process or walk you through a system or give you the steps along the journey, it becomes a lot easier, it becomes a lot more fun, and you're doing it with someone else. So you know that you're going to get there eventually. So that's probably the biggest tip I can share.
Yeah, thanks. Look, I think that's a really insightful tip as well. There's not a successful person that I know of that that doesn't attribute a level of their success to being surrounded by other people. And interestingly, I always have a nice moment, if you like, when I hear someone that says, "Oh, look, absolutely, my success is because of," and then they go and talk about their team or the people around them or the people that have contributed or supported them. I really think that's quite awesome, as opposed to saying, "Oh, yeah, it was all of my doing. It was just me, and
exactly,
I got there on my own."
Yeah.
So I think there's something to be said for acknowledging and recognising and being grateful for the people that have supported one along their way.
Absolutely.
So with that said, obviously who you are, what you stand for today, and what you're obviously looking to do is very, very different from old world, if you like. Mm-hmm. So say you're at a networking event, someone comes up, introduces themselves to you and says, "Gavin, what do you do?" How would you answer that question in 10 seconds?
Okay. I'd say basically I want to help people transition from the corporate world or from their 9-to-5 jobs into something they're a bit more passionate about.
I like it.
Try to get that in under 10 seconds. But yeah, there's obviously a lot more to it. But at the end of the day, I'm here to help you make whatever journey it is you're trying to make a lot more easier and fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Easier and fun. Well, they're good words. Easy, fun, passionate. I mean... Passionate,
yeah.
Good reasons to get out of bed in the morning. So with that said, as I often ask of my other guests, does that cause people to say, "Well, that sounds interesting. Tell me more about how that works," or what is it that you do to make that happen? Like, does that evoke a response from others?
Absolutely. Look, there hasn't been anyone that I've met who doesn't resonate with that at some level. I mean, look, there are people who absolutely love what they do, and that's fantastic. And there's a lot of people, unfortunately, that just don't like what they do, and it's through no fault of their own. They've been put in positions or they've gotten themselves stuck in a rut. And now, it is hard to make that transition. And if they haven't got the support behind them, it's a very difficult choice to make. People get locked into where they are, and then the mindset starts to develop that they can't move, or it's all a bit too hard, and they've just got to settle for where they are. And unfortunately, that's just where a lot of people are. And I'm just a voice out there, and there's many others that are trying to do this. But I'm someone who's there to say, look, you don't have to. There's a better way. It may require you to re-educate yourself, reprogram your mind, maybe rethink what your life purpose is or what it is you want to do. Maybe you had a passion that you've just put to the shelf for a little while, that maybe now it's time to relook at that and see if you want to do that. Because we all live once, you might as well make the most of it.
Yeah, beautifully said. I think the other important thing in those situations is to provide what I would call honest, truthful advice as well. And by that I mean, in those scenarios, that there's plenty of people out in the marketplace that will say, well, look, just follow this one step and all of a sudden, money will fall out of the sky. Whereas, acknowledging that it is a journey, exactly as you've been on yourself. You've ridden the highs and the lows. You've gone out there. You've learnt from mistakes that you've made, things that have worked well, and now you're in a position where you can impart that knowledge to other people. And recognizing that that is a journey. It's not something that once you make that decision, it happens instantaneously. Exactly.
That's actually a really good point. If you don't mind, I'll just expand on that a little bit with an example. For anyone who's listening, and let's say they've done a degree or a course, or they've studied for something, and now you're an accountant, for an example.
Yep.
You would have studied for years, and you need to become an accountant. Then you would have trained under someone to get your skill to a certain level before you start making decent money in your job. Right now, if you look at it, let's say you were to start a business, you've got to go through all that training. And unfortunately, there isn't really any place where you get that kind of training. So people start a business, and they expect to see the dollars come in. But what they don't realize is they haven't trained to be in sales. They haven't trained to be a good marketer. They haven't trained to talk about their business. It's going to take some months or maybe even some years before you get good at it. And, I tell people it's going to be a journey. So if you're going to go down this path, you need to invest in your education. You need to get around good people. You need to, really start putting yourself in that right environment and mindset. So, yeah, it's not a quick overnight road to success.
Yeah, good. Well, thanks for summarising because, obviously we're both about the journey, very
That's
much
it.
so, as opposed to an overnight thing. So thank you. Thanks for that. Now, obviously, you've mentioned a little bit about having been in that corporate environment and some of the the goings on that were not the things that were congruent with you, and you've obviously been in a position over the years that is, you've taken the time over a number of years to get where you are today. But would you mind expanding upon that defining moment, that moment where you just thought, I've had enough of this environment, and it probably was playing on your mind for a while. It wasn't like you just woke up one day and just made a snap decision. So would you maybe expand upon what was the defining moment that you just said, okay, that's it, game is over, I'm moving on?
Yeah, look, I probably have a few, but you laugh when I tell you this one, but one of the guys I used to work for in my corporate environment was a friend of mine. And when I say a friend, I mean, we got along really well, and he poached me from another company. And, we got along really well, but he was my boss. And at the end of the day, I reported him to him. And I remember there was this one day, we were sitting around having a drink, and, we'd had a really great month or quarter, and I'd just gone out and bought a house, and so now I'm heavily in debt in mortgage and all of that, and this when interest rates were relatively higher than they are today. And I remember we were sharing stories, and he said to me, just in jest while we're having a beer, he said, what makes a good employee? And I go, what's that? And he goes, one that's in debt. And he goes, and he goes, I guess you'll be stuck with me for quite a number of years now. And when he said that, I knew he was joking, but at the same time, there was this undertone which kind of said, now you're trapped. And, and it's like you're now a slave to the corporate world. And I remember thinking, I don't like that, and I don't ever want to be in a position where I'm trapped. And I thought, well, if that's the attitude of one person, and that person's my boss, and I really don't want to have I don't have to work for someone like that. Secondly, I just don't want to be in a position where I don't have choices. I want to be able to go out and do what I want to do, and not have to be locked into any one particular place or person. And for me, that was a bit of a defining moment. I decided, look, you know what? That's it. Like, that's the tipping point where I've got to find a better way. I've got to get out and make something happen for myself. I guess, it was just that kick that I needed, to say you don't have to settle for something like that. You can do better.
Yeah, I don't like that. I mean,
it was a very it wasn't a nice thing to say. I know he was joking, but it was what I needed to make that move.
Oh, mate, it sends shivers up the spine just thinking. I just think that's anyway. I have opinions on those sorts of things. I probably won't expand on them, but that's not at all cool in any way, shape, or form to be saying that. No. Yeah. So thank you for sharing, though. I can see why that was a tipping point or a catalyst to say, you know what, enough's enough. Exactly. I'm going to go out and do my thing. Good on you, by the way, because, that's obviously enabled you to be where you are today. So I wonder, though, insofar as, that was 6 odd years ago where you then started this journey that you've embarked on. And, I imagine that, where you are today, your confidence, your sense of belief, your sense of clarity, etc., probably, I'm guessing, is a lot more defined than what it was 6 years ago. And maybe if you wouldn't mind elaborating on that, just to give us a sense of how, if at all, has what you're aspiring to do changed over that period of time that you've gone out to create your own destiny, if you like.
Yeah, look, really good question. I have always been someone that's wanted to make a difference and help people. So, if you look at the basics and nuts and bolts of it, that's always defined the kind of work that I've tried to do. So when I left the corporate world, I started a business where it was around health and nutrition and helping people get fit and healthy. And it was something I wanted to do for myself. But then I found, well, if I did this and I inspired other people to do it, I could make a difference. So I got into that. And I actually did quite well with my partner at the time. But what we didn't have were systems in place, and we didn't have very good, ways of leveraging ourselves. So that business, it went up, but then it kind of went down. And but what inspired me then was to continue on that path. So then I went into different sales type roles and BDM roles where I helped other people build their business. But there were things I was passionate about in making a difference. So again, I jumped into the sustainability area around renewable energy and solar and all of those types of things, because that was booming at the time. And I thought, well, I can make a difference to the environment. I can make a difference to people's houses. I can make a difference to companies. We can be efficient with energy and all of it. And again, it was all driven by my need to make a difference. And I got into that and I was quite successful. But again, it all depended on me. And, I found, well, that's not a very good way to leverage myself. And I went through a number of journeys, building mobile apps for businesses to help them attract more customers so it would make a difference to them, improve the experience of their customers. Again, I was trying to do things where I felt I was making a difference to whoever I was working with directly. There was a measurable impact. And through all the journey, I found I could get to a certain point, but then I was being held back by what I didn't know. And so, I started talking to people that were much smarter than me, attending seminars, reading books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and Think and Grow Rich, and things like that. And I started finding I needed good mentors to help me expand on this idea that I could help more people. And that's how I've ended up where I am today, which is, talking to people about the journey. And I guess, like yourself, you're just putting out tools and resources to help people along. And now I'm able to leverage myself a bit more.
I like it. Leverage, key word. I'm going to share a couple of things with Advisor Nation here, Gavin, that I think is important, because what you've just elaborated on is a beautiful example of going through it and taking action and reviewing and refining as you go, as opposed to trying to get it all perfect from the couch and then not taking action until it's all perfect. It's the case of implement and improve during implementation. So what I want to say to Advisor Nation is, in a situation like this, have a plan, sure, don't wait for perfection, but have a plan and know some criteria for success. So is your criteria for success, one-to-one? Is it a product, or is it a service? Is it something else? Actually, I'm not sure what there is beside a product or a service, truth be known. But I think it's important just to have that sense of clarity around the criteria as you're going along. Obviously that's something that you've been able to expand upon and review and refine for yourself as you've gone along, Gavin. And the second thing is being able to accept and use feedback as a means to identify how to improve along the way as well. So I think that's really important. As you've just highlighted, that's contributed to what it is that you're able to do right now, and how you've been able to get yourself into this position where you can obviously give back to others.
Yeah, look, it's a really good point. You probably heard of a book called Flight Plan by Brian Tracy. And I read that book, and one of the things that inspired me, and Brian Tracy is a world-renowned expert in a lot of things, and one of the things he talks about is having a plan. And the good thing about having a plan is where you want to get to, and you have some idea of what that looks like, but you can always make changes along the way. So that if you're going off track by a little bit, you can correct yourself, and things are going to happen in life that are going to throw you off the track. Whether you like it or not, it's not going to be a straight line. It's not going to be perfect, and you just need to know that. But if you don't know where you're going to end up, it's very hard to correct yourself because you just don't know if you're heading in the right direction anymore. And so, I always had a plan to want to set myself up in an environment where I'm making a difference, I'm contributing, I'm enjoying my life. I've got these certain things that I've got around me. I didn't know the exact way I was going to get there, and so you don't have to beat yourself up if you haven't worked out this perfect business or opportunity, because it'll probably come through trying and refining quite a number of things. And one of my good mentors told me that progress is better than perfection. So as long as you get up, you start doing things, you'll work out very quickly if that's the way you want to keep going, or if not, you make a change and you go down a different track.
I like it. It's written down. I've made a mental note. Progress is better than perfection. Thanks for that one. An absolute
no worries.
Beauty. So let's talk about a defining moment, Gavin, in your journey, a moment where it was a bit of a challenge for you. It was a low point. It was maybe a time when you were questioning or reviewing, what are you doing, why are you doing it? If you could please bring us in on that moment, paint a picture for us around what was going on for you and what, if anything, did you learn from that particular experience?
Yeah, mate, I thought hard about this question. Because I've learned stuff from doing so many different things. One of the businesses I set up was around children's education software, believe it or not. And there was a company that had already started in Sydney, and they were looking for people to help them grow. And I basically said to them, look, I'm happy to help you guys grow because I believe in educating our kids. And again, it was something I was passionate about. And so I said, let's have a look at your products and services. I'll take it to market. I'll basically market it. I will bring in sales. I will help you build this business from the ground up because they had kind of flatlined. And so I went out there and I became this traveling salesman, and on the road, going between Canberra, Queensland, all over New South Wales, and basically the real door knocking, talking to parents, talking to schools, and all that kind of stuff. And look, I enjoyed the challenge, from someone who's come from a cushy corporate role where I had staff and I was sitting in a nice office and all of those kind of things, to literally being on the road and, getting the rejections and all of that. But I loved it. The low point for me was, taking a drive out to, I think it was Canberra, one for over 2 days, and knocked over I don't know how many different doors, got appointments, and I did about 4 or 5 sales, and each of these sales were, a couple of $1,000s each. So if they all came through, it was going to be a good trip. And I remember getting about 4 or 5, I think I got 5 sales. So I thought I'd smashed it, and I had a really great, feeling about it. Got back to the office, put the paperwork through, and all 5 of them canceled. And I remember thinking at that time, I can't believe that this has happened to me. I mean, what are the chances of every single one of them pulling out? And then I got angry, I got, upset. And then I started thinking to myself, well, this is a good lesson for me, because one, it's teaching me patience. It's teaching me a lot of different things I need to learn in sales. But then the other thing was all of this rested on me. I had no leverage, and if I have to do it all over again, there's a high risk return sort of thing. And I worked out quickly that this wasn't quite the business I wanted to do. And I just needed a smarter way to maybe tackle that problem, and started learning about systems and processes, and that's where I got into technology. And rather than me personally having to go out on the road and drive hundreds of Ks and all that, there are smarter ways, like doing podcasts and doing webinars and doing Skype calls and all of that. So that got me on that journey. And so I'm talking like 5-6 years ago, early on in the piece. That's probably a lesson that I learned from that experience.
Yeah,
but a good one.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that there ain't nothing like losing 10K over 24 hours. That's going to make you think differently about what you do, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So it happens to the best of us.
Yeah, but what I like is that you've been able to take that and review it and make you think differently and cause you to make different decisions. So as opposed to repeat and do the same thing again, which is clearly unsustainable.
Exactly.
So thanks for sharing that. Obviously a very challenging time. I can appreciate why that would have been a catalyst for you to start reviewing how you go about investing in time, energy, and effort into learning about systems, processes, technology, etc. Would you mind maybe fast forwarding now to another time in your journey where you've realised and you got a sense of validation or a sense of feedback about, hey, this is worthwhile. I'm really absolutely starting to crush it now. I'm getting really great results, or I'm really noticing that I'm making a difference, and really saying to you internally, I'm on the right path here. Yeah, look,
I've had a few of those moments as well. So it's really gratifying when, for example, let's say you're talking to someone and it's a client or someone you've worked with, and they come back to you saying, thanks so much, and it really is out of the blue when they call you or they email you or whatever it is, and they say, look, thanks to you, for the work that we did 6 months ago or 8 months ago, whatever it might have been, I've been able to now get to this place, and I'm making X amount of dollars, or my sales have grown, or I've improved my business by so much %, or whatever it is, or I've expanded. And it was because we had those few chats, or we did this, or we did that. And, I had quite a lot of that come through over the last couple of years. And it was around the time when I was thinking of putting my resources into something like a book, because that was, again, something that was taught to me by one of my mentors. And I remember floating the idea by quite a number of people, and even putting together like an online program. And I started getting just feedback from the market, and people were like, yeah, if you could do this, this, and this, and it came under this price, we'd be in, definitely sign us up. And for me, that was a lot of validation that I was heading in the right direction. And I, it kind of inspired me to then say, okay, well, there's definitely a need for this, and I need to make it happen because people are asking for it.
Yeah, that's always a good thing, right, is to put it out there and get some good feedback from others. And certainly when you get calls out of the blue unexpectedly and people saying thank you so much, very nice thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, mate. I love that. Beautiful thing because, it's really congruent with who you are and your whole intention about making a difference.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, there has to be a purpose behind what it is we do. I mean, it's what wakes us up in the morning, gets us energized. There's nothing worse than waking up and you just go, oh, I don't want to have to deal with another day. And, you hear people talk about, suffering from Monday-itis and all these different symptoms. And then I'm sure there's a word for Tuesday, and then there's hump day on Wednesday, and there's all these different terminologies for different days of the week that people don't enjoy. But to be honest, if you're doing what you're passionate about, or at least you're working towards it, mate, it doesn't matter what day of the week it is. For me, every day is like a weekend because, one, I love weekends, but then you could turn any day into that perfect day. And, you don't need to be doing anything extraordinary, but something that you're passionate about, is going to make a difference. And suddenly it's not work anymore.
I hear you. I'm going to say a couple of things, one of which is going to seem completely abstract and weird. I'm going to say it, and then I'm going to go back to a little note that you've just talked about. Firstly is, on a day like today where, it's grey outside, sometimes people will say, what a miserable day. And I think unconsciously, they're setting themselves up for a bad thought or a process or a way of conditioning themselves for that day. And as much as that might seem like a small thing, and for Advisor Nation, if you don't like that, okay, well, park that one to the side and, move on to the next gold nugget. But, I reckon that there's something to be said for, not necessarily having to say, and being all positive and happy-go-lucky, but I think, just recognising that what you think and how you feel is conditioning how you're going to act. Sorry, Matt, the other thing I was just going to say really quickly is I really like how instead of going out there creating something and throwing it out to the marketplace and then waiting to see if it would resonate with people, is you went to the marketplace and said, what do you want? And this is what I'm thinking about. Love your feedback. And then people said yes. And so then you went and built it. So, there's people that will go out there and say, so you build it and they will come because, they've watched the Field of Dreams, 10 times and seen Kevin Costner pitching the ball to all of these old baseballers. Well, actually, no. Ask your marketplace what they want, get some feedback from them, and then give it to them.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the world has changed a little bit. People are a bit more, I won't say the word skeptical, but people are a bit more educated today on what it is they want. And you can no longer assume that what you think people want is going to be the right answer. I mean, there was a time when, there wasn't a lot of information out there. I'm talking even pre-internet days when, people didn't really know what was out there. So if you threw something out there for the first time and you used good marketing and advertising, it was a good way to bring in an audience. But today, people can jump online, they can look for what they want. People are already educated, they already have their wants and needs, predetermined, and they're so oblivious to advertising today. Advertising is everywhere. It's mainstream, and marketing is so in your face today that people are blind to it. And you really have to ask people the question, and it's not even just asking questions. Sometimes it's finding out what are the problems that people are facing, everyday problems, and how can you provide a solution. And if you can provide a solution to a problem that actually exists, so not a problem in the future, but a problem that exists today, and ask people, look, if I were to do this and it solved this problem of yours, right, would that be a good thing? And, would you be prepared to pay for it? And if you were prepared to pay for it, how much would you actually pay for it? You'd be surprised what people say, and then that just gives you some validation to go out and go, okay, well, I'll test it. Look, I'll create this thing and, you can be my first kind of, test subject if you like, and give me some feedback. And then before you take it out to the broader market.
I like it. Now, of course, I'm going to take care of the skeptics that hear your message just now and say for those people that are hearing this and saying, yeah, but what about Apple? Hey, Gavin, I'll just let you know you've got a little bit of rubbing there against the mic. I'll just let you know that.
Oh, okay.
I was going to say, for the skeptics that are hearing the message and saying, what about Apple, who go out there and don't ask anyone? Because Steve Jobs is known for saying, well, how does the marketplace know what it wants? I'll just give it to them. Well, Apple's the exception. So let's, acknowledge Apple's the exception, but the rule is ask for feedback first. So the exception and the rule. I thought I just might mention that.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, Gavin, what we're going to do is we're going to enter what's called the PD round, which is where you get to share some short, sharp nuggets of your wisdom, and so we can pay it forward to our listeners. Are you ready to go, mate?
Absolutely, let's do it.
Magnif. So if you could please share, what's one thing that you've done to earn the trust, respect, and advocacy of clients and other people in your network?
Mate, keeping in touch and just having integrity at all times.
Keeping in touch and having integrity. Perfect. Can't go wrong. What's one piece of technology, like an app, that you swear by?
Ooh, I don't know if I have one particular app that I swear by, but I like using Skype quite a lot. So I have Skype as an app on my phone. I'm using that right now. It tends to work for me. I know it's a simple one, but it tends to work for me.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I think a lot of people vouch for it. What's one thing that you're excited about in your business right now?
Yeah, I'm excited about where it's going. It's evolving all the time, and I'm just coming across some really awesome people, and it really is taking a bit of a life on its own. So it's growing organically, and what excites me is just the endless possibilities of working with people in all over the world, because technology is enabling us to do that. So it's exciting.
Yeah, awesome. I love it. What's the best business book that you've read in the last 6 months?
In the last 6 months, I've probably read a couple of books. I'm trying to think which would be the better one. To be honest, it's a book around property development. So it's called Confessions of a Property Millionaire by a lady called Divna Bohol. Now, the reason I like that book, it's not so much about property, but it's about the principles of having the right mindset and all of that when you go into any venture. So basically, she's someone of an expert in mindset and training your mind to visualize and create the kind of future that you want for yourself. So I love reading stuff like that. I love getting immersed in how I can improve as a person. So for me, books like that really inspire me. It's not so much about necessarily what the end goal is going to be, but it's about the process and the journey. So for me, I'm always trying to be a better person. So that book really helps me. I mean, that's just one of the books.
Yeah, that's cool. So Confessions of is it called Confessions of a Real Estate Millionaire, perhaps?
I think that's probably a Confessions of a Real Estate Millionaire. Yep.
Perfect. Yeah, I've just found that one on Amazon. So by Divna Bohol. I'll actually put that into the show notes for everyone.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you. Now, Gavin, I've got a last question, which is an absolute cracker. So I'm wondering how you'd go about this. Let's just say you didn't know anyone and you had your business. Sorry, you didn't have your business, you didn't have your clients or your network, but you did have a smartphone, you had $1,500, and you had your existing knowledge. What would you do in the next 7 days to get yourself started?
Mate, I would be networking like crazy. So, we are in such a lucky generation at the moment. But the times that we live in, you don't need much. $1,500 is great. I mean, most people don't even have $1,500 when they start a business. I would get onto things like LinkedIn. I'd get onto Facebook. I'd be getting onto a lot of social media sites, even just jumping on the internet and start just doing some research, and getting onto forums. Today, you can get onto pretty much any forum you like and start asking questions, start joining, groups that you might be personally interested in. So you, again, reading books and, reviewing material to help you define, what it is you're passionate about. And that might take some time. You might need to take some time out and just go sit by the beach or sit in a room or meditate or whatever it is. And it doesn't cost you a cent, but you just get really clear or clearer on what it is that makes you happy. If you were to work in a certain area, what would that look like, or what kind of career would it span into potentially, and then try and find the groups or find people that are connected in those areas. Again, none of this has to cost you any money, and then you start connecting with a few people, and just a nice little introduction, and then try and get into those networks and in those circles. And what you'll find is by putting yourself in those areas, you start attracting back as well. People go, well, yeah, I really like what you're sharing. I like what you're doing. Maybe there's something we can do together. And it's just a case of connecting. And today, we just live in that environment where it's easier than ever to do that. So $1,500 can go a long way.
Perfect. So for you, just to summarise the key thing that you'd be doing out of that is that you would be focusing on building relationships and connecting and getting out there and networking with people to start building your network. Is that right?
Absolutely.
All right, Gavin. So if you could please take a moment to share with us how Advisor Nation can connect with you, and then we'll say goodbye.
Yeah, sure, James. So probably the easiest way is to just go to my website, which is www.breakfreefromcorporate.com. So that's all one word. And all my contact details are in there. So there's multiple ways you can connect on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and all of those sort of things. For all your guests, if they're looking for ways that they can take their idea to implementation, I've got a book that I've just recently released called Break Free from Corporate, Be Your Own Boss. And that book has been getting a lot of great feedback. It's a very practical book, got a lot of tutorial exercises and things like that will guide you step by step. And there's 10 winning strategies on how to build your business. So I'd highly encourage, for someone who's looking at taking an idea or maybe, a hobby of theirs or something that inspires them into some kind of practical mode where they can turn it into a business venture, then, definitely have a look at that. And, connect with us. I'd love to have you guys part of the community. And if I can make a difference, that's what I'm about. So hope that helps.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. So that'll be in the show notes as well for everyone. So breakfreefromcorporate.com, and you can find Gavin's cool resources, including his book there. So Advisor Nation, you are the sum total of the people that you hang out with, and today you've been hanging out with myself and Gavin. So keep up the awesome work. And Gavin, on behalf of Advisor Nation, mate, I'd love to say thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your contribution. We wish you well, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Good on you, James. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Journey of the Successful Advisor. Be sure to visit thesuccessfuladvisor.com so you can access a range of free ebooks, resources and programs to fuel your journey.